All right, Deadline, the last premium live event for the WWE was pretty solid. I will say I had a lot of concerns about the Iron Survivor matches, where it's a 5-person match, but two people start the match, another person comes in every 5 minutes. You win points by pinfall, submission, or disqualification. If you're someone who is pinned, you go into penalty box for 90 seconds. That's there's just so much that happens in that sort of match. God, just that seems really crazy. But I loved that it allowed you to do that babyface in peril bit. So you can see babyface get pinned, they'd go inside the box, and then when that 90 seconds hit, they came out like a house of fire. I thought that it worked really well. And two matches, one for the women, one for the men's. And I was like, these are difficult because you're doing two of the exact same match. Like, how do you make it different? You see it with War Games last month. It's hard to have two matches that are functionally identical but feel really different. I like that the women's version really, really low pinfalls. Pretty much, it's like Roxanne scored 2, most people scored 1, Kiana James had 0. And I trust Shawn Michaels to work. Kiana James like, I got this. I've got a plan. I know the numbers. I can do this. It's in the bag. She had 0. And Roxanne winning, I'm like, okay, that's good. I picture either Roxanne or Indy. Because, Toxic Attraction, Mandy Rose, heel. Makes sense. But, solid opener. Nice, chaotic, crazy. I think they worked the penalty box in well. Because normally in a triple threat match, one person gets thrown outside the ring. This way you had a pinfall. That person was out. And that allowed the match to have that more traditional flow to it. So I thought that was good. Just chaotic enough to work. And the finish with Cora Jade not being able to secure a pinfall because she was one of the last people to come out was good. They threw in just enough story beats here and there. I thought it worked well. Alba Fire, Isla Dawn. Really love the amount of work Isla Dawn puts into the character. Didn't work when she was a face. Works really well when she's a heel. For Alba Fire, I missed the flaming baseball bat. You go from Kaylee Ray, killer, to Alba Fire, and I'm like, but they give you a flaming baseball bat? I'm like, that's a fair trip. Like, your name's kind of weird, okay? Here's your baseball bat, but it's on fire. So I get smoke and a flame baseball bat. Yeah, I'm okay with that for an entrance. And I say this in all sincerity. Kaylee Ray is like the Randy Orton of the women's division for NXT. Everything looks so effortless, so smooth. She has this weird, reckless feeling to her, but it's always controlled. And once they pulled that turnbuckle, I'm like, all right, we're going to see them work with that. Am I a big fan of Isla Dawn touching the ref's leg? And then, there's your big senton. Ref's trying to go for a pinfall, but he can't because he's coughing up black goop from his nose and his mouth. I'm okay with it a little bit, but I'm like, The last Kaylee Ray to still be kind of protected. Also keeps over going with the witchcraft pagan nature of Isla Dawn. This is her big initial match. She kind of needs to get that first pinfall, make herself seem like she's destructive, and it protected Kaylee Ray enough. Alba Fire, and Alba Fire has got enough goodwill that she can eat a couple losses and be fine. I'm like, that worked. Pretty Deadly versus New Day. I'm not a big fan for comedy in my wrestling, except when it's done well. This match had a lot of seriousness to it, and then it had a twerk off between blonde, pretty deadly guy and Kofi. I say that because they changed their names, and I, for the life, have no idea which one is which now. I'm like, I knew them before, but I have no idea who they are now. And then they did a bit where, Pretty Deadly brought in the tag team titles, and they did the whole I'm going to throw a title at you if they hit you with it. But then Kofi threw it at somebody else and he fell down. And the fact that when the ref turned around, they're all laying down and there's a title. It was one of those spots I'm like, it just worked. The match had the right amount of fire to it, right amount of babyface, right amount of great, slimy, pretty boy heel heat. I'm like, this is a really, really well done match. And belt shot. 1, 2, kick out. All right. Midnight Hour. And I'm like, all right. Break with a pinfall. 1, 2, 3. New Day. Triple Crown Tag Team Champs. I'm like, that's insane. They join a very small group of teams that have that accolade. Street Profits and FTR. Other teams that have won it really haven't had that success in winning the other tag belts. And I'm like, man, that's insane. And with it, Kofi then surpassed Booker T when it came to title reigns. And I'm like, I like that. I like that a lot. Men's Iron Survivor match. You only had one face. So I knew Axiom was one of your first guys. And I was like, Axiom and JD McDonough. I'm like, all right. Two guys who both know how to work, multi-stage matches from their time in NXT UK with Heritage Cup. I'm like, okay, these guys know what to do. But McDonough getting no falls. Even though he hit a sequence where it was, you eat a devil inside, you eat a devil inside. I stop your move with my headbutt, you eat a devil inside. Devil inside gets reversed into a Canadian Destroyer. I'm like, oh, just so good. If only his head was like 13% smaller, so it matched the size of his body. But maybe then he would lose the ballast that he needs for flipping around. I love that they used the pod. Having them fight inside the pod, having them, throw each other inside the pod, slamming the door into their in the pod. Axiom doing a big dive off the pod. I'm like, yeah, that's good. I'm like, they found a way to go, okay, how do we make our match different? And Axiom was like, if I jump off of it? What? What if we fight inside the pod? What if we throw each other into the pod? What if we slam the pod and like fake lock each other inside there? Okay, what if I climb on and do a dive? I'm like, that's good. And that one, vastly different flow to it. The winner had 3 falls. So lots of people had 2. I'm like, this was done really well. And it was Waller. Okay? Waller has got a lot of good upside to him. He talks incredibly well. And you can tell that they're high on him. That's why he had the feud with AJ Styles. That's why he showed up on Raw. And again, he makes a different sort of match for someone like Braun Breaker. But he also feuded with Apollo Crews. I was like, well, how we do our main event? I like how Braun Breaker has a different style of match with almost every opponent. This time, we took on Wagner. Wagner had to beat in a power game, so we had to use speed. Okay. We took on McDonough. McDonough had to be from a technical standpoint, so we ended up having to use raw animalistic power. Like, all right, I kind of like this. Whoever he takes on, if that person beats him with one attribute, he just uses one with another one. I like it. And I loved the build-up for this, where it was, Braun Breaker out on the lake, going to a diner, a similar diner to where Apollo Crews is going to. The two of them out on the lake together, talking through like, hey, I've got speed, I've got agility, I've got a power, I've got intense, I have explosiveness. And they both had the same. The first 2/3 of this match, where there's a lot of that just, we'll do a Greco-Roman knuckle lock, we'll do this, we'll do headlock takeovers, and then do a kickouts. I'm like, yeah, I like this. Show 2 guys who were not trying to make any mistakes. Apollo getting the upper hand, and then, he was going to snap and then fought it back. I'm like, I wouldn't mind seeing like a heel Apollo just wreck some fools. Also, don't mind Apollo having to keep it in check because he doesn't want to lose it again. I'm fine with that. Ending sequence, I liked seeing the triple powerbomb. I liked seeing that nice frog splash from Apollo Crews. Really love seeing him hit Braun Breaker's finisher, and I'm like, this is solid. This is showing 2 guys who are incredibly skilled and adept at facing pretty much they're like the doppelgangers, mirror images. I'm like, I like it. I like the story that they built up to this point. It's sort of telling in the ring, and then it was just, explosive spear 1, 2, 3. Okay. It's coming towards the end. I'm like, all right, there's a little thing in the corner. It's like, Normally, when Braun celebrates, here's your entrance ramp, he celebrates here towards the hard cam. Now he's celebrating more towards Booker T. And I'm like, he's getting jumped. Gets jumped by Waller. I'm like, all right, it's a good way to add a little additional heat to the feud. I'm cool with that. They can also take it back to their NXT versus NXT Originals War Games match. They've got enough stuff built into this to make a really solid, compelling feud of two of the younger guys. I liked what they did here with this. I really did. The two really confusing matches flowed very well. So all in all, this was a great way to end the year. I'm looking forward to Royal Rumble and probably Vengeance, and then whatever they do for February, if they're doing one, heading towards our stopgap for WrestleMania.